99.5 Global FM, your number one source for R&B in the Bahamas. Yeah.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm. As always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making GPS a part of your afternoon. So, we are going to be talking about a subject today that impacts all of us here in the Bahamas from time to time. Those of us who are, natives or long-term residents. Jason, I just waiting for you. That should have been done before we started. You know that from September to November is hurricane season. And, we used to that. It's no big deal, really. For those of us who born and grow and have lived in the Bahamas or, long enough, we know that hurricanes is a part of our lives. And for the most part, we know what to do to be prepared. But boy, Dorian issued a lesson to us that I don't think anyone who lived through that will soon forget. And that is that because of this new normal that we live in, this world where global warming is a reality, storms as we knew them are no more. Now we have to not be just the regular prepared for hurricanes, but we have to prepare for these superstorms, these storms that are coming with a fierceness that we are not accustomed to. 3 years ago, Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas with everything it had. I mean, leaving billions of dollars of damage in its wake, particularly in Abaco and Grand Bahama. Estimates are between 13 to 1,500 people still unaccounted for. Billions of dollars in damage, as I would have said. So yeah, as much as we thought we knew what hurricanes were all about, we have to redefine in our minds what it means to live in a hurricane zone. Because these are the hurricanes I grew up with. So who better to help us to wrap our minds around this new concept that we face than meteorologist and author Wayne Neely, who is here to talk about this hurricane season, obviously, but also um, this new reality we face and how we have to be even more vigilant to be prepared for these massive storms. Wayne, welcome to GPS.
It's good to be back, Michelle.
Good to have you as always. So before we dive into preparations, etc., what is happening out there right now? Anything churning in the seas we need to be aware
Yes, there's Fiona, and right now it's just east of the Leeward and Windward Islands in the Caribbean, and all indications now the track forecast has it turning towards the northwest when it gets near Puerto Rico, which means that it could, on the present track, it could come east of the Bahamas, but there's one or two models that have it swinging towards the Bahamas, but that will depend on two things: the condition, the strength and position of the Bermuda High, and when it takes that northwesterly turn. If it takes it earlier, then we're safe. If it goes further west than Puerto Rico, then we're going to get some serious repercussions from that storm.
So at what point will you in your business, meteorologist, know, like, in another couple of days you'll know?
And I'd say, but next a day and a half or so.
Oh, in a day and a half, you'll
Yes.
you'll have a better idea
yes.
what it's going to do.
And there's so much different conditions attached where and right now it's being impacted by what we call wind shear, and that's playing a number on the storm itself. That's keeping it weak. And the good thing is that all the models have it being under influence of wind shear until it gets almost just east of the Bahamas. So, and if it does strengthen, if it passes further east of us, it could take a route of Dorian and get a little more stronger. But if it continues to go on the track further west, then we can get a weaker storm. But there's with hurricanes with this type of, it's normal. The track forecast sometimes is not 100% accurate, but it gives you a fair idea where it's going to go based on the models. And we used several models. Some of the models have it. Most of the models are not in agreement with each other. One model, UK model, and the GFS model. The GFS model has it passing east of the Bahamas, and both the UK as well. But there's two models have it further south. They're not reliable as the GFS or the UK model. But it looks like the Bahamas might be spared, but it's too early to tell.
Okay. So in the meantime, we need to keep our ears open to what
Yes.
the Met Office is telling us to
Yes.
try to stay on top of
So
it.
things ready, yeah. And this is one storm that it's not. There's some storms. The track forecast is so accurate or so precise. You know that where it's going to head sometimes days in advance. This one where the different models are in disagreement. That's when you have the problem, and a lot of them are accurate. Some are not as reliable as others, but they normally have a consensus depending on when it's 2 days, 3 days away, and you'll be able to determine from there.
Now, one thing we learned from Dorian, that thing went crazy overnight.
Crazy, yes.
So we thought we were good and prepared.
Yes.
And then,
And everything exploded. It did the same thing as Hurricane Andrew in 1992. When I went to bed, when I came on at 10 o'clock that night, all the forecast models had said that Andrew is gonna die out and it's gonna dissipate. And 2 o'clock in the morning, the machines went crazy, sending warnings about Andrew that we should take it seriously. And next, Andrew was the third category 5 storm that we impacted. Now, Dorian had sustained winds of 150 miles per hour, and it went into a patch of warm water. And that's where it exploded exponentially because it was 150. It went from 150 to 185 in less than 2 days. And that's a record.
And that is not normal.
No, that's not normal. Wilma did it in 2005 near the Yucatan Peninsula. And Hurricane Gilbert did it in 1988 when it was near Jamaica. But it's not usual for that to happen. And what Dorian went through what you call an eye wall replacement cycle just east of the Bahamas. And when that happens, it weakens storm a little, but then once it gets reformed, the intensity increases and the warm water is feeding it. And there was the problem with Dorian was that it had warm water, sea waters, and it had the steering constant of the atmosphere, which controls where the storm goes and how long it's going to be over here. It basically collapsed. So the storm was just drifting out there, and while it was drifting, it's picking up strength from the warm waters, and that's what happened with Dorian.
So with this global warming
Yes.
being a reality that it is,
Yes.
intensifying the power of these storms is, and Jason, please bring Wayne's camera in, is hurricane preparedness as we know it traditionally a thing of the past?
Well, I think the problem was not, I don't think hurricane preparedness, well, yes and no. Bahamians as a whole are not very hurricane savvy. And it's because they've never experienced a major, most average Bahamian, the average person younger than 50 years old never really experienced a major hurricane unless you lived in North with Hurricane Andrew. Floyd, which was in 1999, and that was Long Island or Alabama. And there's Francis, Jane, and Wilma. All three of those storms were basically weak storms, and so you didn't have much hurricane experience. And humans typically wait until the last minute. All from based on my experience, they wait until the last minute, then they're sure that hurricane is going to come, and then they prepare. And that's where you're going to go wrong. And with Dorian showed that preparation is essential before the storm.
Okay, so what do we need to be doing now to be ready?
There's certain things you can do. You should have been done, like let's say if you have a leaky roof or a leaky window or something, you should repair those. If you have trees, for example, people will have a big coconut tree right near the roof, and with a strong wind, it's going to collapse the whole. Rather than just get the trees cut down in normal size, and that will prevent electrical damage. And that could be in big difference between whether you have power back in 24 hours or next 2 weeks. In my case, I lived in March of 2016. I lived in an area that was impacted. I was out of electricity for a month. And so you have to prepare, and there are certain things that people take for granted. For example, hurricane insurance. And most people, when I went to each of those islands, most of them are not. They're not insurance savvy. Right now, the storms are coming. They're becoming more powerful, and so, for example, you have a $300,000-$400,000 house. Most person I went to in Abaco, strangely enough, and in Grand Bahama, I went to Abaco and they said, Mr. Neely, my house is valued $380,000, and in one day, Dorian came and took that away. And so I said, why didn't you have insurance? He said, well, insurance is too expensive. And that's the cry of 9 or 10 persons. And with flooding, Bahamians don't really, with climate change, one of the hallmarks of climate change that everyone should understand is that people assume that because they experience Floyd, which is not a really devastating storm, or they experience Andrew or Michelle of 2001, that, we just got some flooding, so I don't have to worry about preparing. I can live with a flood for a few and strong winds after that. But with climate change being present now, you're going to have severe flooding, and it's going to be magnified by a factor of 10, so to speak. So in other words, if during a normal thunderstorm, you got like about 6 inches of rain, that could be like 3 feet, and that means a big difference. That's a big difference between your property. And people in March of 2016, and the hurricane came from the south, so most of the persons were warned to evacuate from the south, that's in South Beach, and go to a safer location. Most of them stayed. Now, what Elliston Greenslade, the commissioner of police at the time, and Leon Bettle, the senior assistant commissioner, did, they were actually forced to go into the hurricane during the peak of the storm to save persons' lives. And what they did, they put their lives and the officers' life in danger, because the average person doesn't know that. Even Michael Pinter, the average person doesn't know that this flooding is going to be severe, so they're going to stay in their homes. And people feel more comfortable in their homes, and rather than go to a hurricane shelter that's safer and won't be susceptible to flooding, because NEMA does a pretty good job of determining the sturdiness of hurricane shelters. So with flooding, you get more intense flooding. The winds are going to increase significantly more. We saw Dorian was 185 miles per hour with gusting to 220, and we've never had that in a storm before. The strongest we've ever had was 160 miles per hour, and that was in 1932. So you having these storms, they're more stronger, and the effects are significantly more devastating than the past storms in the last 20, 30 years.
So, are you suggesting then that we need to sort of get used to these stronger storms now? Is
Yes,
that going to be that's the new norm
That's
now?
the new normal. That's the new normal. All of the experts predict that you're going to get more intense storms. Some persons out there say that you're going to get more frequent storms. Most of the experts say that you're going to have more intense storms. They might be less frequent, but you're going to get more intense storms. Because what happens right now, the atmosphere is much warmer. You have more moisture in the atmosphere, which means that that's one of the footprints of strengthening hurricane. You have the sea surface temperatures are, in this case, is 2 degrees Celsius above normal now. Doesn't seem like much, but for a hurricane, that's rocket fuel. And with Dorian had an average sea surface temperature higher than 2.8. For a hurricane to go and thrive, you need a sea surface temperature of 26.5 degrees Celsius. That's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Below that level, hurricanes won't form or they won't thrive under normal circumstances. But the warmer it gets, the strength of the winds explodes exponentially. So it's going to get higher the warmer it gets. In fact, for the last 20 years, the last 100 years, the average for hurricane in terms of duration, the average stream was six named storms, 6 hurricanes, 12 hurricanes, 6 major, 12 tropical storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 major. Now it's 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 4 major. So in other words, the last 20 years, you saw an increase in hurricane activity. But if you expose that to over a long 100-year period, the records show that there's still no significant increase in the storms. But what is definitely happening, the hurricanes are much stronger now.
Okay, that's not good. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes, good afternoon, Michelle, Malcolm. Good afternoon, meteorologist.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I called to ask you 3 questions, and you could see if you aware, or if you can make me aware if I'm wrong or right. Now, 20 years ago, I watched on the Discovery Channel where they were intentionally melting the iceberg, intentionally melting it. So now, what I've learned, they have this machine called herbs. I ain't nobody pronouncing the word right. Herbs, where they control the wind with these herbs. Now, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, they said the hottest desert blowing the wind would cool everything off. So now everything's open. Now, I want to ask you if you think these things designed or these things is Mother Nature, because you didn't have these before. So it definitely can't be Mother Nature. So I want you to help me understand, and maybe the masters, that these things being designed, because it's like a joystick controlling. So they can make the weather with her. Herbs control the wind. They control the wind. So and now the hottest just stopped blowing. Now the iceberg gone. So now they come up with this global warming. It's not nature. They created these things.
Okay.
So it's not nature. So I just want you to enlighten me on a couple stuff. Thank you.
Well, 2 things. In terms of hurricane modification, that was a science that they tried after the World War II. The U.S. government decided to get a group of the smartest set of meteorologists and scientists in the country and trying to find a way to weaken storms. And they did several things to try and weaken it. And one of the things that they did, they came with, or they want to find either how to get rid of a storm or how to weaken a hurricane, find its Achilles heel, and hopefully if they modify it, in other words, that will stop the hurricanes from happening. One thing that they came with several ideas. One, they thought about coating the sea surface with a layer of oil. And they realized that that's a major problem, because if they coat the sea surface temperatures with oil, you might have the hurricane, but you're gonna have a greater disaster with the oil. They eliminated that one. They also tried maybe dropping a nuclear bomb into the center or the eye wall of the hurricane to hopefully that disrupt its circulation. and they found out that that nuclear bomb had no effect on the storm. And they also tried something called silver iodine crystals. And friends of mine in Thailand, the meteorologists, they do that now to this day. What did they try to dump silver iodine crystals? And the idea was that once you dump silver iodine crystals into the storm, the eye wall storm, it would force the storm to rain itself out. In other words, stop it from strengthening any further. Two things happened. They found out that it had no effect on the hurricane itself, and they also found out that, and at the time there was a storm. I think it was Ginger. It was near over Cuba, went over Cuba, and Cuba at the time that's during the Cold War. Cuba, in other words, they threatened to sue the United States and take them to the World Court if they try it again, and so they realized that they would have another crisis. Back then, Cuba was really strong because the USSR was a strong superpower at the time, and so they threatened them, and so the U.S. government gave that up. Now, two things what they never considered: if you eliminate hurricanes from the world, we as a human being we won't last without hurricanes.
Explain why that is.
Several reasons.
Why are they
I'm a student of
necessary?
Dr. Miles Monroe, like you.
Okay.
When God created the earth, for everything He had a purpose.
Mhm.
And before anything was on this earth, before human was on this, before Adam and Eve, hurricanes were here. In fact, all the earliest records of mankind, with the exception of Africa, in the Song Dynasty in China, the Maya hieroglyphs, they all have to talk about hurricanes, and they all considered it a god. They thought that some god was creating it. And hurricanes were born. Hurricanes actually access the Earth filter system. In other words, if you take a hurricane out for a week with no hurricanes, the atmosphere will get so toxic from our own doing, smoke and everything else, that we probably won't last more than a week. If you take hurricanes out of all the tropical regions, 60% of the rainfall in the tropics comes from hurricane and hurricane-related systems, whereas the easterly wave, tropical storm, or hurricanes. So you get rid of 60% of your water. It also takes heat from the equator to the poles. God told a hurricane to take heat from the equator and transfer to the pole. Now, God never told a hurricane that he will never get to the poles, because if you look at it, and the hurricanes in this region, they go from the equator and they travel and they go until they get to the temperate region, and then they take a northwesterly, then to a gradually northeasterly turn. They all follow the same route, and that balances the Earth's atmosphere, the temperature difference within the Earth. In other words, if you take hurricanes out of it, we'll have a planet like Mars or Pluto. If it's too far away from the sun, it'll be too cold. If it's too close to the sun, it'll be too hot. And so if you take those hurricanes out, that's what you're going to have.
So they
And there's
actually
others.
serve a purpose.
Yeah, they do serve an ultimate purpose. If you take it out, and basically what the U.S. government was doing is taking a gun, putting it to its feet, and just pulling the trigger, or better yet, take a gun, put it to a heart, and pull the trigger, because that's what hurricanes are. Hurricanes serve a purpose, like everything else on this earth, and that's simply what the hurricanes do now. The only problem with hurricanes is that we live in a hurricane belt, and other places live in volcanoes. Volcano does the same thing, and ocean currents do a similar process as well. So they all have a purpose, but just that we choose to live in the Bahamas, which is where we are impacted by hurricanes. If you go to San Francisco, you get earthquakes. If you go down to Montserrat, you get a volcano. So
We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Yes, same call again, Sandalana and Freeport. Meteorologist, you answered the question. Thank you for the answer. So now, my thing is now, since we need the hurricane, and since it's created, the melt iceberg and all this, you think they could use it for a weapon? But do you think, with your analogy, your smartness, that they could use it for a weapon?
Well,
they could use that same for a weapon. Like my theory is, when Dorian came to Albuquerque and Freeport, Bahama, I was here at Freeport, Bahama. It's like a joystick, like a movie, like a joystick. like a computer, and they control everything. How it sits here, they control everything. So we got to go deep too. Although it might seem negative, we still have to go deep. We can't scared to go that deep, and we can't be scared to have them theory. If they need it, and you say they need it, they can use it as a weapon too. Like
Okay,
Dorian.
caller, let's give him an opportunity to answer the question.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
Well, he asked me with the ice sheets. The earth sheets are melting. The atmosphere is much warmer than normal and than many years ago, and that's why climate change is so important science that we must follow. And because right now, even in the and maybe if you said this about 10, 15, 20 years ago, most people didn't care about this. They didn't care about it. Most time, me as a meteorologist, the only time we talk about climate change is in our office, probably having lunch or something with climate change, or when we go to a conference. The average person never talked about climate change, never really, it was like a topic that was affected some other country in the United States or in Europe or somewhere. Nowadays, everybody's now seeing effect because what you have, the ice sheet melting, so the water level is higher now. And with the higher level water, which means that let's say you have water goes into the ground, the water is high, so it takes less rainfall to flood an area. And once that rainfall floods the area, saturate the ground, there's no place for that water to go other than up. And so now we actually saying that not only locally here, but in Freeport, we saw with Dorian, there's certain places that never used flood. My book on Dorian is coming out shortly. And a lot of the persons who I interviewed said, Mr. Neely, even Michael Pintard was the minister of agriculture. And I know he probably doesn't like me talking about it, but he's going to be one of my cases I use going forward. Michael Pintard was a cabinet member in the Bahamas government under the former IPM government. And Michael Pintard, before Dorian struck, the cabinet of the Bahamas gets the first set of briefing code, the director of the Department of Meteorology, whoever he is, he has the brief cabinet. And also Stephen Russell, the thing, basically I want to let them know that, look, these things are in place, this is in place. And the director of meteorology will tell you, look, we're expecting this amount of flood, we're expecting winds of this amount. The models at the time had it forecasted for 21 feet. And Michael Pritchard got that message. The Honorable Hubert Minnis got that message. Darren Henfield got that message, who's the member for Abaco, and everyone got that message. Now, in Dorian, Michael Pintard was trapped in 15 feet of water in his house. And the Honorable Prime Minister at the time, Hubert Minnis, said, look, the experts are warning that they say it's going to be 21 feet storm surge. And the average person said, please take the storm seriously, and said, I am 6'1". So basically that means that's 3 of me and you still have space left over. And I think he held his hand up above his head to indicate that we're going to have 21 feet of water. And so please take the storm seriously. The problem that you have is that Michael Pintard, another person who also experienced it, Tim Allen, who's a photographer for the Tribune. Yeah. He had to be rescued, and he had to get her. He was in 5 or 6 feet of water in there, and he lives in Freeport and Arden Close. And he said, and I didn't interview Michael Pintard. I asked him for an interview, but I never got one. But I interviewed the neighbors, and Tim Allen, who's a photographer, he's taken many hurricane pictures over the years, and he went to say he's still traumatized by that. And he said, Mr. Neely, these areas typically never flooded before. Say, if I know, because Michael Pintard, his wife and his daughter was rescued. Ain't no way Michael Pintard and God's earth and any other thinking person in the bed, in the mud or anywhere, knowing that they're going to get 15 feet of water, will stay in their home. The problem is, but the ones were given. But the problem is that with climate change, one of the hallmarks of climate change, you're going to see areas that never experienced weather systems now experiencing them. In Pakistan, my friend of mine, the director, he said they had flooding about 3 weeks ago. Said in his country, never seen that in 120 years, said the records. And different places around the world. You have forest fires. San Francisco, you're getting forest fires because that's drought conditions. And it only takes a lightning storm to strike a dry piece of bush, and that's it. Right. So you now have these conditions, and you have flooding. Now, bring that close to the home. You have areas in Nassau where it never used to flood. several things happened. They cut down all the trees, all the hills. They use the hills for urbanization and building.
Right.
And so now you have that. And so now you have flooding. And you have flooding, for example, let's by Commonwealth Bank. Many years ago, it never used to flood right past. If you try to do an afternoon thunderstorm now, you try passing Commonwealth Bank on East Bay Street there. You can't, you have to turn off because the back road and the front road is completely filled
Sea
with
comes
water.
up on land.
And those areas never, and there are other areas throughout New Providence. Charlottesville in May, you had severe flooding. And other places you have severe flooding. These never happened before. And sea surface temperatures are warmer. So, and also the air temperature is warmer. About 3 weeks ago, we've had one of the warmest times on record. And I've been keeping track of all the maximum temperatures and the minimum temperatures over the years. And gradually over the last, I could never tell you, if I was interviewed about 10, 15 years, I could tell you that, I could never tell you the climate change, but I do it on a daily basis for my webpage. And I've seen many times the records, and I make it one that's the record. I verify with our climatological section, and then I say, so we've had last 10 years, we had the second warmest temperature on record within the last 3-4 years. And that's a record. So it shows you that the atmosphere, even the winters, you look at winters in the Bahamas, it used to be very cold. As a little boy in South Andres, it used to be cold. I had to wear sweaters. I can't even wear sweaters no more during the winter because it's very warm. The winters are milder now. And I know everybody's calling me now because they want cold for Christmas. Simply cold for Christmas isn't a thing anymore.
So you're the person who control that. Why are they calling you?
I don't know. I sometimes want to tell them I ain't God. But I just tell them that it's gonna. They want to know when the next one is coming out, where it's gonna be a strong one. And a lot of times, most times I've disappointed and said, no, it's not a pretty strong one. And Michelle, I bought last time, I bought some sweaters. When I travel, I buy you see nice sweaters and you buy them. I won't wear them so bad. I can't wear them because it's too hot. But that's climate change now.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. We have a couple of questions coming in on Facebook, and the telephone numbers to call 3260271. 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line for text messages only 801-0271, 801-0271. We are talking to meteorologist Wayne Neely. We are smack in the middle of hurricane season, eh? Yeah.
Peak of the season.
Peak of the season.
Yes.
So this is time to pay attention, people. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, fuel, track life, tough, rough racing, velocity, mud, all-terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest Wayne Neely from the Met Office. We are talking hurricanes. We are smack in the middle of the hurricane season for 2022. And we're talking about what you need to understand as it relates to the new normal that we now face with regard to the strength and power of these hurricanes and what you need to do to be better prepared. I have a comment from one of our Facebook viewers. Marissa says, why do hurricanes only form in the Atlantic from June to the end of November? What's significant about that time period?
Certain things, the dynamics of the atmosphere is ideal over time. From June to November, that's when you get they start from, first of all, in terms of let me take each parameter. The tropical waves, hurricanes need an initiating factor. In other words, a hurricane won't just form out of clear blue. It has to have some, for example, if it's an old front, if it's what you call a Gulf of Mexico type or Bahama Buster or a not Southern Caribbean Sea, but and you have Cape Verde, and those are 85% of the storms that form Cape Verde type hurricanes. Well, it's now Cabo Verde, and tropical waves, the tropical waves that comes, the dynamics of the atmosphere have these waves propagated every 3 to 5 days during from late April until the end of November. That's when they form. Second, the sea surface temperatures are highly suited. Now, in June, actually, it starts from June to November, end of November. The sea surface temperatures become ideal from about the 15th of July until about the mid-September to late September. And after that, they start dying down. Another reason, the winds in our atmosphere are extremely weak during the summer months. During the winter, the winds are extremely strong. So, for example, if you're traveling to Europe, depending on during the winter or summer, you can get to Europe a little earlier than depending on the season you go in. The winds in our atmosphere are very strong. For a hurricane to go and thrive, you need light winds in our atmosphere to prevent wind shear. In other words, to prevent the strong winds from knocking tops off the hurricanes. And there's other factors when you have warmer and you have a moister atmosphere. Warm air holds more moisture, and by it's not because hurricane is a creature of moisture. They strengthen with warm sea surface temperatures and moist atmosphere, and all those things combine For example, sea surface temperatures doesn't come. For a hurricane to go and thrive, you need a sea surface temperature 26.5, which is 80 degrees Celsius. And typically, that doesn't happen in June, actually, believe it or not, because what we call a seasonal lag in temperature. That doesn't happen until around the 15th of July.
Okay.
The average sea temperature. So you get the warmest temperature from the 15th of July till about the end of September. And incidentally, of the sea surface temperatures are pretty warm, even up to October in the Caribbean and in our Hawaii area. But what happens to the winds and atmosphere become very strong at that time. So even though you just have warm sea surface temperatures, that does one component really doesn't create a hurricane. You need several components combining together, interacting with one another to give you the ideal storm. And hurricanes only form. That's why, I'm a creature of Dr. Miles Monroe. I talk wherever I go about him. And everything has a purpose. And when I was in Barbados, I was doing research. I was doing some creations involving hurricanes. And I was working on some medical problems. And I couldn't get the problems worked out. And I went to my teacher, she's not normally a person who wears a faith on his arm. And she said, I said, I can't get this thing sorted. She said, because you're using the wrong thing as a constant. And I think the constant was 0.001. And I said, what happened if that constant was 0.002? She said,
everything off.
Oh, it's a little off. Say, Wayne, you won't get a hurricane forming. See, that's why I know there's a board somewhere. These equations are designed to perfectly to be just formed from a Big Bang. And so with these hurricanes, they only form under ideal circumstances. So even when you see a hurricane, which is why you us as professional meteorologists, a lot of times we say the conditions are there for a hurricane to form. Sometimes they don't. And like I tell you, what me as a meteorologist do, even you ask me about the track of the storm, I can't tell you exactly that hurricane is going to go particularly. We know that there are certain conditions will cause a hurricane to either turn left, turn right, or speed up, or what have you. But we can't know exactly, because every time we write something about hurricanes, it always proves that nature's much more powerful than we as human beings.
It's not an exact science.
It's not an exact science, yes.
And now, sometimes hurricanes form after the season is supposedly over.
In fact, there's been a hurricane every month except February. There's been a storm every month for the whole year.
Really?
Yes. It's unusual. In fact, for the last 6 years, the only year that did not occur was last year. For the last 6-7 years, they had pre-season storm, which is the reason why last year and the year before, you had people talking about where they should start the season on the 15th of May rather than the 1st of June to catch all the storms. If the conditions are ideal, they'll always form. Now, only problem, and the season, there's 4 types of hurricanes impacting the region, and each type occurred during certain times of the year and form under similar or different circumstances. So the earliest storms, you tend to get them just east of the Bahamas, what Professor William Gray calls Bahama Busters. They given the name, that's scientific term that they given. And they form, and they don't form from tropical waves. They form from what you call TUT lows, or upper level low pressure system, or what you guys normally hear as upper level trough. And they build from the upper atmosphere sometimes to the surface, and the circulation into a low pressure system. And if the timing is right, the water temperature is right, the winds and everything combined, you get a storm forming. One of them was Hurricane Katrina of 2005 that formed from tropical depression number 10. It disintegrated. It regenerated as tropical depression number 12, and it moved to the Bahamas as a tropical storm, and then it went into the Gulf of Mexico as a hurricane. And we all know the repercussions of Katrina.
Interesting and fascinating. Now, Bahamians have a bad habit of hurricane season. Instead of turning to the local Met Office to find out what's going on out there, they turn on the TV and watch American news to get news about hurricanes.
Yes.
But what they don't realize is the American news is reporting for Americans.
For the Americans, yes.
So they could care less about how to
No, they don't worry about the Bahamas. And
why is that a mistake? Why should people pay attention to what?
First of all, when I came back, I was from 2001 2005. I was not in meteorology. I was not working. I was researching my books on things.
Okay.
And it hurt me because I would pick up a newspaper with the Tribune or the Guardian, and they'd be interviewing a guy from AccuWeather or the Weather Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why don't they interview our people? In fact, be more educated, be more, our training significantly more. If you put, we have about 12 forecasters at the department. If you put anyone them against anyone those meteorologists from America, those persons will outperform them every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they're not qualified, it's just that perception. And a lot of times people think that these people are not qualified, or the Americans give you a better forecast. But no, it's the same. We focus our attention on the local conditions. And in other words, for example, if you talk about hurricanes, they'll say, okay, a hurricane is forming, it's going to be over the Bahamas. They'll say the Bahamas. They will not say, the local forecast will say, over Anagua at 2 p.m.,
Mm-hmm.
over Exuma at 7 p.m., over New Providence at 9 p.m., and over Grand Bahama. So it'll give you a time. It'll actually give you a local focus, a pinpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I don't just blame the media, I blame them. I blame my local people too. Sometimes some of our leadership is not, they're not idealized. For example, with me, everyone, when it comes to meteorology, everyone talks to me. But the others, they keep them away from the media a lot. And so if you read the newspaper today, they said the Tribune has a hurricane expected to affect the Bahamas. They don't have a name of who gave the interview. They don't have time was taken. And they just said local forecasters are keeping, rather than if there was at the Weather Channel, they say Jim Contrary says the hurricane will affect the Bahamas. So it's better to locally. Sometimes we don't give our own justice.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I did 3 interviews today for international media, and several newspapers have me as a science advisor. Now, if I go to the local, I'm not teaching. I'm not at the local, because they moved me out of the office system and kept me away from the media.
Is that right?
Yeah, because of 2015.
What happened in 2015?
I said a Doppler radar wasn't working, and a Doppler radar wasn't working, and from then.
You spilled the beans.
Yeah. And so because of that, other persons are suffering and it's the only people who are suffering is not me, actually, because first of all, my reputation internationally, so it's nothing much you can do with my reputation thing. There's seven top newspapers in the United States pay me as a science advisor.
Mm-hmm.
I lecture on hurricanes, so it's not much to do. But I think the problem is that we don't give our own credit. And that's where we're lacking. That's not just me as a meteorologist, that's other people as well.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember Dr. Miles Monroe, one day I was going to MIT, and I met him in New York. He said, Professor, he called me, Professor, where you going? I said, I'm going to Boston. He said, I'm going to Africa. I'm going to speak to 5 different nations. And he helped me say, I'm so proud of you. And that was one of the last things I get to hear from him.
Mm-hmm.
And that canceled every negative thing I heard about me locally. And so that's the only thing I choose to remember.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just how we are.
Interesting. Now, you brought up a very good point. That when the Americans, it's changed somewhat now, but I remember when the Americans would give reports about hurricanes, they would say that it's hitting the Bahamas.
Right.
And at that time,
it wasn't just Grand Bahama.
Right. It was only affecting a certain set of islands.
And typical example, Dorian.
Right.
Actually, that's why.
But before you go, I want to say this, that I remember that is why the weather conference was created.
That's why they started that.
Yeah, and that did make a difference because it educated foreign meteorologists to understand the Bahamas is an archipelago, of islands. So don't say the Bahamas, because you impacting all of us, the tourism for all islands, when it may only be impacting one island.
It only affected Grand Bahama, And the thing about
but the weather conference no longer happens, does it?
and that was my thing for the last 5 years. I've been a lone voice in the business, and when they had the weather conference, that's how I met most of the persons who, like, I've met Herbert Saffer, who did the Saffer scale.
Right.
Mark Mayfield doing the forward for Dorian. Brian Norcross did the forward for my endorsement for the 1926 Hurricanes. I met all of them at that weather conference, and those weather conferences taught me so much. And there are things that people, let's say a research student would present. For example, I used the term the hurricanes won't form below 26.5. What they did research their hurricanes, they researched information on hurricanes and bring it to the Bahamas and present it to the conference. And what the hurricane conference did, they say, rather than saying the Bahamas, we need you to call names. And Wernie's Walking did such a good example of doing that. And it hurt my heart to see that they stopped that. And the thing about it, why it hurt me, because that conference, I remember that week, every week, every station stopped what they were doing. Every meteorologist would come to the Bahamas and they would take pictures of meteorologists in pants and sing them. And they say, "Oh, we're in the Bahamas."
Great publicity.
Yeah, great publicity. The whole week,
yeah.
All the affiliates and all the major news stations were paying. Yeah. You couldn't pay for that kind of publicity for nothing in the world. And you know what happened? When Dorian came, the Honorable Minister Diagla, he said they spent millions of dollars to try and do what the weather conference did. They had to pay millions of dollars to let people know that the islands of the Bahamas are still open for business. Right. And they got people like Lenny Kravitz to go on Ellen and other shows, and they paid people to say, look, millions of dollars to say, look, the Bahamas is not just Abaco and Grand Bahama. The other islands are not affected. And so that's what happened. But with the weather conference, those meteorologists thought that you cannot say the Bahamas because the Bahamas is such a large, wide, massive area, landmass. I mean, large islands and chain of islands. Not because Hurricane 1 hit one area that makes the whole island shut down. Right. And so that's what happened with Dorian. And that's what happened with other storms as well. Same thing with Floyd in 1999. You also had Michelle in 2001. And those were storms that, and for a while they worked. But the only problem is that now you have younger meteorologists who never been to the conference. The older person, even Mark Mayfield, me and him would have discussion, and we would talk. And he looked over my manuscript and he said, Wayne, one day I learned with the Bahamas, say, y'all were so good at telling us what to do. I mean, do not call the Bahamas, say the central, southeast, or northwest Bahamas, and call the islands. So because that makes a big difference. Because not only what they did, they took the meteorologists not just to Nassau, but they were on trips. They would take them to Grand Bahama, take Zuma, take Lutra, and other islands.
I was at tourism at the time when we used to do
that. You said tourism? Oh,
yeah. I was the media consultant.
I don't know who did that, but that was a terrible. To me, that was good. I didn't understand that. I still don't understand. And they tried to bring it back. I think it was 2 years ago, but COVID, I think played number on it.
Okay.
Yeah, but they want to bring it back.
So you don't know, you can't remember which year it was discontinued, that conference.
I
don't even.
I can't remember, no. But I know when it stopped. I learned so much. Those were information that I can't. Nowadays, right now, I'm in several groups that whenever they do research, they send me their manuscripts and I'm able to read over them. But the average person in Department of Meteorology, they don't have that luxury, or they don't have that privilege. And those conferences they educated me. They opened my eyes for things about hurricanes that I did not know. And at the time I just started to write, I was writing my first book. But I was just disappointed when they stopped it.
Yeah, I remember initially I was still at ZNS anchoring.
Yes.
Because I remember that during the week of the conference, we would have different meteorologists come and do the news, weather forecast for the week.
Yes, and the meteorologists come locally and
yes, and that went over very well.
Yes.
And then I left ZNS and went to the Ministry of Tourism, where I served as the media consultant, and there were at least one or two weather conferences that took place while I was at tourism. One of my responsibilities was to facilitate those live broadcasts.
Yes.
Those live cut-ins.
And they have a nice pink shirt with the Bahamas.
Oh yeah, and I remember the anchors would say things like, Yeah, so Joe Blow is in the Bahamas attending a weather conference.
Yeah.
They would always make a joke out of it, like,
yeah.
you know you on vacation,
Yeah.
right? You're talking about conference.
Yeah. And they would go on the beach. They would advertise an interview on the beach. Oh my God. So y'all please don't send me these conferences no more. So it was funny. And
with their cool drink in their hand.
Pina colada. Yes, what are you doing? And this,
it was fun.
Yeah, it was really funny. And I was just like, they were joking. It's all in the Bahamas. Oh my, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Because I met a good friend of mine at the time. I met Phil Klossbach. That's the first time I met him.
Right.
And we good friends now. So whenever he's doing research or I'm doing something, I would pass it to him or he would pass something to me and he would tell me what. And so I met Mark Mayfield. I met him and with Mark Mayfield, I met him at lunch. And I've been trying to catch him. I've been trying for the other persons they actually called me, they want to do my forward. And I've been trying to get Mark Mayfield to do forward for a long time. He said at the time he was in National Army, so he can't endorse something because he was the director of the National Hurricane Center. And then when he left Carrington, he went to WPLG Channel 10 as a hurricane specialist then. So as soon as he retired, he said, I'm retired. So I sent a message out. I said, look, before you get something else, you write my forward. And he agreed. He finally agreed. Yes, but he's doing the forward for my book already.
We're going to talk about your books more in a second.
Yeah.
But one thing I do fondly remember from the weather conference, I think it was the last one that I covered. You guys, all of the meteorologists were in session.
Yes.
And my colleagues and I we had scheduled an outdoor lunch on the beach. Yes. And my colleagues and I were responsible for making sure that everything was set up.
Right.
So we're out there on the beach setting everything up. And then this weather system comes.
Yeah.
And it's like a little mini hurricane. And so we were like, all them weather forecasts. We went out to cancel it. Yeah. So we sent a message inside saying, it's storming out here.
Yeah.
And the response came back, oh, that's going to pass over in 2 minutes. And we were like, these weather forecasts ain't wait 5 seconds. Yeah. Guess what?
I ran out for dinner.
In 2 minutes, it was gone.
Yeah.
I said, well, I guess they really do know what they're doing.
2 minutes and it was one evening and they had dinner. The good thing, we had dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner there.
Right.
And we were at the Met Office locally. We were guests, and some of us took part. And one night it was raining, and so everybody had to rush inside. So everyone started jumping. Said, "Man, y'all couldn't tell us it's rain." And we had like about 50 meteorologists there, all laughing, joking, and everybody's happy, But that was something I think the Bahamas needs to consider bringing that back.
Yeah, really. Yeah. It was very impactful. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Wayne Neely. We're talking all about the hurricane season, preparedness, and why we need to start taking these storms more seriously, because we're talking billions of dollars in debt that were left behind at Dorian. 3.4 billion.
Yes.
Good Lord. We can't afford to be dealing with that. Anyhow, we can talk about that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is GPS.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with meteorologist Wayne Neely. We're talking everything that there is to know about hurricanes, us being in the hurricane belt, smack in the middle of the hurricane season for 2022. We have been blessed so far this year, and we have to continue to be prayerful that we continue to be blessed and not see another hurricane for the rest of the season, because Lord knows Dorian did a number on us that we still trying to get over, and we really don't need to see another hurricane for years to come. $3.4 billion in debt. Here's a clip. I'll take it, Jason. Of this, I think it was the national. Obviously, Dorian gained international attention. If you go to YouTube and type in Dorian Bahamas or Hurricane Dorian Bahamas, you'll see lots of videos there produced by the international media, produced by NGOs, produced, telling the story of that hurricane hell, that apocalyptic nightmare that ravaged the Bahamas. So here, I think this piece was prepared by the National. It's just a snippet for us to recall the horror that was Dorian.
The absolute destruction seen from above. Last week, Great Abaco Island was known as a sailor's paradise. Today, relief workers are using the word apocalyptic. This is a before and after. So much of the island suddenly submerged. Hurricane Dorian hit Abaco first on Sunday, the most powerful storm ever recorded in the Bahamas. The U.S. Coast Guard is using helicopters to get some of the injured out to Nassau.
People saying, I've lost everything. And the only thing, you could say, everything is going to be all right, and keep praying.
On Grand Bahama Island, neighbors are rescuing each other on jet skis and in boats.
These people are going out and pulling people from their houses, from on top of their houses, and saving their lives. Look, there's a little baby here, a boy, they're covering up and protecting.
At this point, they estimate hundreds more were still out there.
We Bahamians, we're not going to stop until we get everybody in.
Dorian stalled over the island for hours, ripping it apart, and sending people scrambling up as water rushed into their homes. The fear today, rescuers will be too late for some.
We have persons trapped in the roof, and a lot of those individuals, we haven't been able to hear from them for the day, and we cannot get to them.
Over local radio, Bahamas National Emergency Management Agency urged people to hang on, telling them, "We haven't forgotten you." The United Nations and Red Cross estimate more than 60,000 Bahamians will need food and clean water. A big complication to getting aid in, this is the airport in Grand Bahama, under 2 meters of water.
So I remember seeing video. You were talking about Michael Pintard's house. Michael
Yes.
Pintard has a two-story house, and the water was coming all the way up to the
The
second
second floor.
level.
Yes.
I remember seeing videos of people in Grand Bahama who's like they were at the upper levels of their home and
Yeah.
saying that the ocean is in my house. The ocean.
Yeah.
People saw
Some people-
shark fins,
Yeah.
sharks swimming through their living room.
The commissioner of police, I interviewed him for Dorian, and he said he actually saw a barracuda in Abaco. It was so big, and he said some of the guys wanted to carry it back with him. They saw. He said he saw a shark and he saw barracudas
In his house.
No, not in the house, in the pub, which was land area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, talking about land area, I had an opportunity to travel to Abaco
Yeah.
about 3 weeks after the storm had passed. And when I saw those 40-foot containers tossed about land on people's houses,
yeah.
inland,
Yeah.
which had been on the dock,
Oh, yes.
I was like, what the hell happened over here?
Yeah.
I mean, I listen, vehicles, large vehicles were
Yeah.
tossed around,
All around,
like the
bent-
little
bent
toy
toys,
vehicles
like
you
right.
play with.
Yes.
It was crazy what we saw there. And we talk about the $3.4 billion in debt, but the death toll.
It was significant. To this day, no one knows exactly how much persons who died. And I interviewed the commissioner I heard so much totals over the years, and he said the official total from the police department was 74 persons dead and 60 persons still declared missing. But everyone who I interviewed says it's worse. And even with the jet ski operators, they had to rescue Michael Pintard and his family. And they rescued. I spoke to Billy Roll, who's one jet ski driver. I spoke to many of the jet ski operators, and Billy Roll said, we had to rescue so much people. And say some people actually had the water came to the roof, and they had to take a hammer and knock the plywood off the roof, so they could go above. Other than that, they would have drowned. And and you don't realize the impact of hurricanes. Hurricanes have the ability to bring your country to its knees, and like no other event could. When you had a Hurricane Francis, Jane, and Wilma occurred in 2004 and 2005. To this day, which is 2022, the economy of Grand Bahama still not recovered from those storms. And you had Floyd in 1999. You also had other storms. You had Sandy in 2012. Dorian, in fact, 3.4 billion. Our children's going to pay for that debt. And the worst of the story is with climate change. And typically Dorian will be 100-year storm, and you would get those every 100 years. And now with climate change, you probably get them every 5-10 years or what have you. And so it's worse. And 3.4, I can guarantee you that record is going to be that going to be broken by a hurricane, especially if it's a Category 5. If Hurricane Dorian had struck Nassau,
we would have been finished.
That would be in it, yes.
Jason, I need you to bring up the group because my laptop is freezing.
And even when I went to Abaco, looking at devastation, and it hurt me because when I went to Abaco, I went there several times. I went to Abaco in Grand Bahama, and I did documentary with Nova PBS down there, and one with My Radar, and there were several other international news stations wanted to interview me. And the first 3 interviews I did, no problem. They are actually on YouTube. And one of them, My Radar documentary, that one, what they call a Telly Award, and they got the second place of all the affiliates and all throughout the United States based on the documentary that they did with me. And and after that, everybody started to call me they want to do documentaries with me. And I went down there with several of the CNN, BBC, and all those wanted to do interviews with me. And when we got to the mud, they stopped us from filming. They didn't allow those men. So they came down there, and I felt like, and said, Mr. Neely, why they don't want you to film at the mud? So you were not allowed to film at the mud or the Pigeon Peak. And when I said at Defense Force, the first time Defense Force officers came, second time some police officers came and stopped them from filming. So I simply said, why are they stopping? The only way the world's going to know about our devastation is if these people cover that and carry that back to their respective countries.
Right.
So when the Bahamas ask for money on the international world stage,
Yeah.
are they going to get it because they saw what the damages were done? And I think we got most of our money from those, probably I would say the first about 3 months of Dorian. And it didn't help either with the COVID. That made it even worse. But
I don't understand the logic of the suppression of information.
yeah, and
To me, it didn't make sense.
And they never did it. And one of them got said, look, we're not going to come back to the Bahamas again. If there's another hurricane, we're not coming back. And I felt bad because I'm a Bahamian. I want my country. I saw the devastation that storm did to my country.
Yeah.
You know.
When I had the opportunity to travel to Abaco, like I said, it was only 3 weeks after the storm. And Jason, I need you to look at the and what do you have up? Put the group up, please. And we were driven around by the Defense Force and police officers. And I wanted to do some interviews with them, and they said, no, we can't do an interview. And I said, why not? And they said, well, we have been told that we can't talk to the media.
Yes.
And so I said, well, okay, I will go to the senior officers then to see if they will talk to me. And when I went to the senior officers, they was like, Miss Malcolm, don't ask me no question because we can't answer you. You're not, don't ask us nothing.
Michelle, that may sound crazy, but I experienced the same thing. When I went there, the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to interview, I want the person, for example, I went on several radios, and as them who told me, look, Mr. Neely, we went into Abaco, we went to the shanty towns to tell them to move. And those police officers said, look, we can't talk to you. So I said, okay, no problem. I said, tell you what I'll do. You can tell me your story, but I won't print your name. Said because if we tell you that we can't, you have to call.
You possibly get fired.
So I called Abaco, the person in charge of Abaco, and said, no, we can't talk to you. And so I called the person grandmama and said, we can't talk to you.
They had them
so
on
I had to
lockboy.
go to the commissioner. And getting the commissioner was there, but he did an excellent job interviewing. And with Dorian, I found that nobody wanted to talk to the media. That was just not only local, but the international. When I brought the international media with me, because they wanted to interview, all of them wanted to interview me. And so they would go to this person, the person in charge of this, said, no, I can't give you an interview. So I go to the next person, and these people some of them I knew, some of them are friends of mine, and suddenly they were not allowed to talk to the media. But all that tells me that these people are going to get your story out. When you see my book on Dorian come out, I'm going to be in every media house. You have to market yourself. So when those people, if they tell you they give, and I heard them talking about charity and they didn't get as much as they wanted because you stopped the media from filming these things. So you don't have the effect. They don't. And I hope that it's not a government, it's not a thing. I hope that future governments can, whether PLP or FNM, whoever, future government can learn from these mistakes and address them and get them out. I tried to, for my book on Dorian, I try and be neutral. I don't swim in the bucket. I just get the facts. And I tried to, and nobody wanted to talk to the media. I said, look, I'm not going on TV or you're not. I said, no, Miss Lynn, we can't go on. So I can't do it. So it's like everyone was
talking to nobody. They mean they wasn't talking to nobody. Local or international.
But yeah, I tried and it didn't. So,
like you say, missed opportunity because had the world been able to really see
what the devastation was,
where we could still have some impact on the narrative.
Yes.
I think that would have made a huge difference.
And even if they did, see, because people think that they're going to report some, even if they did, let's say they do an interview now, 3 months later they go back and see 6 months then later on in about a year time, progress. If there was not enough progress, go in and say, look, the interview. So maybe they would say, okay, let's give some more money to the Bahamas. But it didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about these books you're writing.
Yes.
You've written, you have a new one coming out now.
Yes, on Dorian.
Tell us about what we can expect in that.
Dorian, it's comprehensive. It's I think it's my best book so far. It's the most complicated one because there were so many moving parts. With the other books, they were pretty easy. But like you said, even with interviewing people, it was difficult to get someone. I tried from the prime minister go down to get an interview, couldn't get him. But I got the story, and which is good. And I did a comprehensive view. I did a chapter on the charities that played a significant role in getting the Abaco and Grandmama back to some degree of normalcy, like the Rotary Club, Mercy Corps, Samaritan's Purse, World Central Kitchen. I've interviewed all of them, and the impact that it had on Grandmama and Abaco, and the person, the person like the jet ski operators, they were actually they rescued so many people that, and if they did not rescue, I'm sure many persons would have perished. Yeah. And they were true heroes in my view. They were one true heroes. They went in during the peak of the storm to rescue these people. People like Billy Roll and others. I interviewed Billy Roll passed on, unfortunately, but I was able to get his recollection, and and I interviewed in Abaco, and I learned a lot from the impact. Dorian, not like any of the Francis, Jane, and Wilma, they were okay, but Dorian showed me what a real Category 5 hurricane is capable of, and it shows us our strength. It highlights our strength and highlights our weaknesses, and I hope the book reflects that, and what we can do going forward with the next hurricane, and how we can learn from Dorian and use it as template storm for future storms. Yeah.
Do we need to go beyond a Category 5 now?
That everyone's saying yes. They brought that to the National Hurricane Center, and the National Hurricane Center, which is the governing body for hurricanes in the Northland, they said no, because Category 5, which is 157 miles per hour greater, they label that as catastrophic. He said, if you go beyond Category 5, let's say Category 6, it's going to eliminate, it means that people are not going to pay much attention to Category 3. Category 3, 4, and 5 are considered major hurricanes, and Category 4 and 5 are catastrophic. And if you put a Category 6, they said that the Category 3 might be, but Category 3 is so critical, it's so deadly that people downplay a Category 3 storm, and they don't want that. And the same thing, that was a big discussion after Dorian. Dorian brought that discussion up. Before Dorian, that was never a real topic. Dorian was 185 miles per hour with gusting to 220. That was never a discussion that came. And they also wanted to extend the season to the 15th of May. And for 2 years, the last 2-3 years, that's been a major topic. Well, this year was less of a topic because this year the hurricane season started right after June, right after. But the last 6 years, there's been had a hurricane had a storm every May, and that had never happened before. So they're hoping that that's just a fad that we pass into. But that's a question that local and international media, they always ask me that question.
How do those of you in your profession feel about this push that Prime Minister Davis is trying to make internationally, being the champion of the message about
climate change?
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing, and I think we have to encourage that because, like I said, climate change is not just affecting just one part of the body; it's affecting the whole country, and it has so many different moving parts. And with climate change is not a science that we can fight individually as a country and win. We have to form a group. In other words, like for example, we consider part of SIDS or Small Island Development States, and we have to band together as one and say, because the climate change, we don't release those gases into the atmosphere that cause the increased carbon dioxide, increase the temperature of the earth. And we are such a small country, but whenever there's a hurricane, for example, Dorian, you're going to have harbors destroyed. You're going to have roads are eaten away. You're going to have a great devastation. And we as a country can't afford that. We have to bear the burden with other countries. And with climate change, it's a political topic. It's more political than just a physical topic. It's political because we have to go create to the world the issues of climate change and how that affects us as a small country, where we contribute very little to the negative impact of climate change, but we feel the more of the repercussions from it. And I see that they're trying to make it a political thing. I think that That should never happen because climate change is thing. Even our livelihood, we get most of our food, the fish from the coral reef ecosystem. Climate change is affecting the coral reef, coral bleaching. The warm waters from the high warmer atmosphere. It releases the algae inside the coral reef, which gives it that bright color that we know it for. And when that does, it releases the algae, and the reef eventually dies. That's going to affect our fishing industry. We have agriculture, banking, and finance, and tourism and fishing. That's a big part of our livelihood, and the only way that can happen, only way we can do that now. One of my cousins, she's in I think in one Tanzania, one of those. She goes coral and Cat Island, that's less prone to the impact of climate change, and she transplanted different parts of the reef throughout the Bahamas, and she's doing a good job. And there's another company in Freeport that does the same thing. So, and all that takes money, it takes time, it takes funding that we as a country don't have. So we're gonna have to depend on international donors, governing body. We need the UN, we need international bodies, and that's what the Prime Minister has. I cannot just go to a conference and say, look, give us $5 million. But the Prime Minister can say, look, our country is suffering repercussions from climate change. We need some help. And they probably would listen to him. So when you make climate change a political topic, you're basically taking gun and shooting yourself in the foot, because we as a country are going to be impacted, not just one person or one group of people. The whole country is going to be impacted by climate change. We're seeing there's going to be stronger hurricanes, and they're going to be more intense. And $3.4 billion. And right now, everyone considers the coast now a luxury. So what happened now is you're building more houses, living in more expensive homes on the coast, which means that the economy is going to, in other words, the devastation is going to be greater than the last storm. So you're going to have a big crisis. And then the Bahamas is also known as a rich country. And so we can't get aid, international aid, that other smaller countries can get. But we considered, I guess, a first world country, so to speak, in quotation mark. And until we get the entire country involved, and that's where we as a people have to take climate change seriously and get the whole country involved to fight this challenge, because it requires all of us.
And the only reason why we are considered such a rich company is because those handful of people who have all the money, they pool that in together with all of the people who ain't making no money. So
Yes.
when they average that
Yes.
out, it looks like the Bahamas is this wealthy.
Right. And I know, I think when I went to do meteorology, they provided funding for some looked at in the world. But we need as a group, and I think Honorable Philip Brave Davis is doing an excellent job, and he's highlighting it, and he's looking like he's becoming a world leader when it comes to climate change. And another person who I like also is Mia Motley. She tells you what's happening, and the impact that it's going to have on small island states like the Bahamas and Barbados and all those other countries.
Right.
And it's the same thing in the Pacific. Those countries, Tonga and Fiji Islands, they have the same issues. In fact, some countries, and in some countries that disappear in Florida, that the state of Florida that's actually impacted by the 4 types of hurricanes. You have what you call the Cape Verde type, which comes off Africa as a tropical or easterly wave and goes to the Caribbean, gets stronger. Those are the strongest type of hurricanes that we get. Dorian was a Cabo Verde hurricane. You have the Bahama Busters, which forms east of the Bahamas, comes through the Bahamas, and then goes either into the Gulf of Mexico and then hit Texas or Florida. And you also have the Caribbean Sea, and all those, the Bahamas is impacted by all of them. And no other country is like that. You have Barbados.
From the Met Department.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity Associate.
We are your superstore for rims, Azara, Trueform, Weston, Fuel, Tracklight, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and Local Van Cars, Homes, and Commercial Window Tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first, and customer is king.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Youngevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin, mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Bikini Hut and Junkanoo Beach. Cool tropical drinks and family fun in the sun. And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here along with meteorologist Wayne Neely. We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, Ms. Malcolm, and your guest.
Good afternoon.
Good work. I just wanted to say, if you can remember Hurricane David, and that's the thing. My first child, I was shot by that lightning, and I said my baby died. I was ready to have a child, ready to have my first child, actually.
Which hurricane is that?
David.
Hurricane David. That was
1979, yes.
40 years ago.
Yeah, 1979.
Right. Yes, I lost my first child.
Oh,
And
so sorry.
I kind of get real panic, you know?
Yes.
They are serious. They are real.
So sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Okay, take care. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. You know, so many years of covering hurricanes as a reporter at ZNS, I don't even remember like how you could recall the year and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember that. There's just so many, you know what I mean, over the years. Because, you know, when you're a journalist, much like when you are somebody who works in your profession.
Yeah, that's me. That's my profession.
That's the time you go to work.
Yeah.
When everybody else hunker down at home.
Yeah, everybody's at home.
You hunker down at the station.
Yeah, and actually, when I applied, when they interviewed me, the director at the time was Nicholas Small, and the deputy director was Kenneth Lightway. And they said, Mr. Neely, where would you want to be in a hurricane? I said, in the safe place at home. He said, no, that's not the answer.
This job ain't for you.
He said, no, you want to be at work where all the action is happening. And I said, this guy is crazy because nobody would be in a hurricane. But I understand now. I understand what he's talking about because most of the hurricanes I've worked, and it's crazy. It's like a zoo there.
Yeah.
The phones are ringing nonstop. Everybody's calling you, and you have to update them. And then people have other big questions, and honestly, you ask them the same question over and over again. And everybody's calling you, everybody making decisions. Whereas the bankers who want to fly a worker stuff, or you want the Minister of Education who wants to determine whether schools stay open or whether they should close, or the little person who has clothes on the line, or this person who's having a daughter fly from school, whether they should come in on Friday rather than coming on Sunday. So you have a whole slew of questions.
Wait till the other time,
But the funny thing about it, I don't mind. Other people, they're driving crazy. They say, look, listen to 915. I take all that calls because as a meteorologist, and as a meteorologist, I know that if that question would seem unimportant to you, for them, that would be for me. For example, there's a lady with school. Her daughter was in Louisiana, and she's coming back. And she's supposed to come back on Friday. The hurricane was going to be there in Providence on Saturday. And so she called me asking whether she should let her daughter come in, take the regular flight or not. I said, look, if she's coming the hurricane's going to be at 8 a.m. Saturday morning, and she's coming on the last day of Friday. So my suggestion is never come on Wednesday because with a hurricane,
You just never know.
you never know. And first of all, the airport is closed. Whenever there's a hurricane,
Right.
everything shuts down. The people like Bahamas, they move their planes into safe, out of the country.
You don't want to get
safe
stuck
locations. Yeah, Defense Force, everybody has moved in, and so that means they have to stop at a certain time. So in other words, if people's coming at 10 o'clock that night or 8 o'clock, chances are they will cancel the flight. Yeah.
All right, we have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mark. Good afternoon, Mr. Neely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
And good afternoon, dear listeners. Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Tell me something, and I mean, I have it going this way, but it seems like, I know you said it's the peak, right? September is normally the peak for hurricane season, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
And I know we early so far. What letter we to now?
F, Fiona. We have Fiona there now.
Okay, and none of these so far will stretch the line.
Fiona could affect us by next week.
You mean a hurricane or a tropical storm?
It could be a weak hurricane, or it could be a tropical storm.
But it could go straight to what, Florida or something?
No, it's right now. It's just east of the Caribbean to even the River Islands, and it's moving westward now, and it should take a northwesterly.
So they can still know when it comes to past Florida or something.
Most of the most are predicting that goes east of us.
It's
still too early right now when it comes to that. The track, this Fiona is in terms of track forecast. The models are in total disagreement with each other. In other words, when that happens, that'll mean any number can play. That means yes, it's unpredictable. Yes, it means the track forecasts are unreliable compared to others. There's certain hurricanes that give you much more reliable track forecast.
Yeah, because that's what I said right now. This season seems to be a little dead compared to some other season, but I think
it's unusual. Long time we haven't had a big hurricane in August like this.
So people in the tropical right now hurricane.
It is a tropical storm the last time I checked.
A tropical storm.
Yeah, and it's being shared apart by upper level winds. It's being shared. So that's a saving grace for us. Normally either the wind shear or the Sahara, that's normally wind storm once it's there.
So wind shear and Sahara, that's two different things.
Yeah, they're two different things. Wind shear is the winds that.
So tell me something, when you try to move the property in the time, but other people are calling me, they don't want me to stay long. So, I mean, Malcolm, the higher death thing, a major role, just like every year, but this year, that's how I would say it seems to be a little dead, or we get the air, and it's hard for people, we done experience some land in the Caribbean or somewhere where they're being affected so far.
Yes, and this year we went for above average year, and so far it's been below average. I can definitely say
but it wasn't predicted to be below average, right?
No, it wasn't. They were forecasting. All the elements are in place for an active hurricane season, but
and so far it's not as much as it's supposed to be.
Yes.
Tell me something. You know the thing on the start from the Arctic, what you call it the tropical, or what you call it, the system before a tropical system, right?
Yes.
Okay, when it starts from Africa and come in the care to come this way and stuff, they don't catch up with one another. Like it's possible that it happens that one system catch up with the next system while it's trying to form, or that's not possible.
Yes, that happens several times.
How do you call that?
I can't remember the name, but what happens is not a good thing because it happens with a weaker storm. Typically, the one in the back tends to oscillate around the other one, and eventually the winds get absorbed into one system.
So they fight one another and they don't be
one is going to be the strong one, and there's particular hurricane. It happened several times. It's not a frequent occurrence, but it happened, I think, about 3 times in the.
I get a little more questions, but I get someone on the chat. Can you be on YouTube?
If I'm on YouTube?
Yeah.
No, I have videos on YouTube. If you go on, just type in Killer Hurricanes, or you type my radar and type in my name, you will see that, or no PBS. I'm in several videos. Okay. But most of my videos are done by National Geographic and others, so you would have paid for them. They don't have
you can before you leave so other side, maybe you won't get a pen to do it in the past, you get it right. Because you very you educate us along Mr. Neely over the years, the hurricanes and stuff like that, and you really break it down. You know, we speak the same, like, what you call it, Grecian language or something like that.
Yeah, but
Dialect, so we understand you good. And you big out there now, man. I say you be in China and all kind of places being interviewed. Keep us a good way to make some money too, so you could maybe do some more books and write some more books and do some more for the country, man. Make money off it because you really educate. Hurricane is a serious thing for us to be studying, just like anything else. What's important. Keep us a good way, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, the telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line is 8010271, 8010271. Checklist. What should we be doing now, Fiona or no Fiona, to make sure we're ready for the possibility of landfall of any storm?
Well, first of all, you make sure your insurance up to date, your house is secure. And that means, let's say if you have a leaky roof, well, this should have been done already before the hurricane season started.
Right.
You have, because I know you had a thing, people check your roof or check your windows, make sure, because during a hurricane, it might seem like that little roof, just a little leak, a little water coming in. During a hurricane, that's magnified. That's magnified by maybe by a factor of 10.
Mhm.
So you get stronger winds. And I remember this picture of Dorian with a lady with a baby. And she was saying, please help me. And the roof was off the door.
Mhm.
Roof was off the window.
Mhm.
That's one of the first things that goes. Your roof, especially your roof, if it's a weak roof. You should check, make sure your medications are up to date. You should check all your surroundings, make sure everything is ideal. And things like trees, your trees, get your trees trimmed. And if you can't trim them, I've noticed over the years, we used to, and I don't know if this is a complaint, because over the years, when I first came in meteorology, we took hurricanes warnings more seriously. When they had ZNS, when ZNS was the only one. Every May, for the whole month of May, we would broadcast like a checklist of what you should do.
Yeah.
And that was done every morning and every evening.
Mm-hmm.
And that was drilled in. And once that happened, I remember once someone got rid of it, I called them and say, why did you stop it? Say, that's not them. So they took that away. They also took the live broadcast, because they said the line between the ZNS and the Nassau Met Office is not clear. They stopped that. And things like those hurricane warning tips, those, it might seem unusual, but those provide people. So once you get on a regular basis, on a long-term basis, you tend to pick it up and what to do before a hurricane, during a hurricane, and after a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those were little simple things that you could, as a person, could do. Like, for example, and I've seen the mistakes, what happened when you don't prepare. For example, in March of 2016, I was coming home from working at the Met Office, and I saw this. I went to one gas. I saw this long line, about 100 cars. So I looked at the gas, and it was right after the passage. And I said, "Why they stop?" And I went to the next gas in this long line. So I pulled my glass. Said, "Miss, what happened?" "Oh, we getting gas because the gas running out." That's after that. But since the gas, you should fill your car before the storm comes.
Mm.
And Irma, the following year, the next time I went driving, and the lines were pretty short. Now, before the hurricane, the line was very long.
Mm-hmm.
So it meant that they learned the lesson from Machu. So every hurricane is a learning tree. You should learn from every hurricane and prepare for the next one. And that's why, for example, me at the Met Office with glass window bridge. One thing we also mentioned, you shouldn't try across the glass window bridge during a storm.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think it was in 2001.
When that young boy got swept away?
Swept away, right,
Yeah.
yes. So you learn from those things, and we put them incorporate them into the warning systems.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't think about insurance, but you have more, the damage is going to be significantly more. And I know how insurance is expensive, but if you have a $300,000 home, and you say, I'm not going to insure this because it's too expensive.
You can pay a lot more.
Nine times more.
Yeah.
And after the insurance, after the
storm passes, you can pay a lot more than you would
one
have paid.
night, yes. Now people say, the premium is so high, or the deductible. Look, If someone giving you, if someone give you $6 compared to nothing, $6 better than nothing at all.
Right.
And so it helps, because at the end of the day, these storms are not going to stop coming. And in fact, most of the experts predict they're going to be more intense. So hurricane insurance, whether you like it or not, should be an important tool in your thing. Now, I think the insurance industry needs to find a way, maybe to make it extend the payment rather than 3 months, make it payment over a year, but still cover the business or what have you, and make it easier on the payment wise. But at the end of the day, things like insurance, you should cover those. Your boats, you move them out of the if you can, put them on dry land. And I spoke to some of my cousins in South Andrews. Yes, most of them are already taking their boats out of the water now, and they're filling it with water so that when the storm comes,
heavier.
Heavier. Yes, and
Yeah.
little things like that.
Well, in Dorian, that wouldn't have made no difference, but it is what it is.
No, not when I saw those big trailers.
That's it.
Yeah,
Those
no.
40-foot trailers tossed around like they were Legos. You touched on it a moment ago with that young tourist who was swept away because he ignored the warnings.
Yes.
And decided to defy Mother Nature.
Yes.
And go on the very bridge where they told people
Not to go
repeatedly
on.
not to
Yes.
go on, because for some reason, we human beings, especially younger ones,
Yes.
tend to think that we invincible.
Invincible, yes. And they don't realize
how serious these storms are.
And my cousin in March of 2016, he
Mhm.
called me and said, Wayne, they just tell us to move over to South Beach.
Mhm.
And I said, yes, I said, because the storm's coming from the south, so it means you're going to get a high storm surge. You're going to get. So he said, I said, you should, I suggest you go. You should leave. So he said, okay, I'll go. And he's going to take his wife and his child. He said, we're going to go. We're going to go to, he said he's going to go to his brother's house
Mhm.
in central New Providence. When he got there, his wife convinced him, said, look, Wayne always saying hurricane coming. And every time he talking about hurricanes. And so the water came in his house. When it got to his chest level, and he said he looked outside, he had 2 Japanese cars. He saw them spinning around in the water, circling.
My God.
And floating out. So, and he asked, said, what you said, Wayne, say again now?
Kind of late now.
Yeah, he did. And the funny, it was not just him, because the police commissioner, Elson Greenslade and Leon Behel, they sent some backhoes and dump trucks into South Beach. And had that not occurred, I can guarantee they would have had fatalities in Machu.
Mm.
And so you had 500 to 600 persons that had to be rescued. Now, that's unusual, because typically during a hurricane, they'll warn you, make sure move from vulnerable locations, because they're not going to send anybody in,
Right.
because you don't want to risk those.
Yeah, you put other people's
You put
lives at
people's
risk
lives in
because
danger,
you're so stubborn you don't want to move and
yeah.
can't understand English.
Yeah.
And then
so-
somebody else
yes.
must lose a family member
Yes.
because they're trying to save you.
Yes, and the person drowned trying to save you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's cases in Grand Bahama, there was Hurricane Wilma. There was a family saying this. In fact, Obi Wilscombe at the time, he was the minister, he was the member of parliament for the area. And I remember him calling me, said, look, those persons in Fishing Road and other areas, they are going to have to move. The storm surge is going to be high. And some of them stayed. He went there 3 times and told them to move. 3 different persons. He said the valley said the second time, and he was one of the persons who was with him, they said they would go, and they said no. And they didn't, and some stayed, and one family, a baby was caught in the flood waters and washed away.
Do you think we are at the point now where we need to have mandatory evacuation?
Yes, we do. Yes, mandatory. And that, if one storm that showed that, the need for that would be Dorian, March of 2016, where they rescued 500 to 600 persons in South Beach.
Mhm.
You had Francis, Jane, and Wilma. You had those. And it's not that these people didn't know. The problem is that people don't have hurricane history, so they don't know what to expect from a hurricane. And that's where mandatory evacuation comes in. And I spoke to several persons about this. And for example, if I interviewed those police officers, one officer said, Mr. Neely, I went with, it wasn't a political thing. I said, the member of parliament Dorian said, look here, this is not a immigration thing. You will not be prosecuted. You will not be, I will personally give you my word that once you go, you won't. It's not going to be impacted by no immigration. You don't have to worry about someone arresting you and you're illegal. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And he said, the police said, Mr. Neely, there was a lady who told me, said, I'm going to leave in 20, 30 minutes. I said, I promise you in 20, 30 minutes we'll leave. He left. And he said, when he went back into the mud to look for victims, the first person he saw was that lady.
Was her body?
Yes. And he said several persons who told him personally, and same thing with the minister, Dorian Enfield said, several persons who told them they were going to move. They did not move. So I think if that don't tell you the need that you need to have mandatory evacuation laws, nothing will.
Yeah.
And it's not like we don't know that. The leaders know. When I did research on my book on the greatest and deadliest hurricanes to affect the Bahamas, I went in all the records, the House of Assembly records, from Floyd of 1999. On Hubert Ingram said, look, we need to consider mandatory evacuation laws because the experiences with Floyd are damaged. With the experiences with Floyd, where some people were told to move and didn't move. Then on Perry Christie in 2016, in his speech to Parliament on Matthew, he said we need to consider mandatory evacuation laws. Even minutes after Irma said we need to consider mandatory.
But it's a lot of considering.
That's a lot to consider, and that's a lot of talking.
And ain't no doing.
And I told one of the member of Parliament, spoke. He said, look, I think that when they should have issued those mandatory evacuation laws, like about a year after Dorian, because if you put it down, further down, 3 years later, person's gonna have
they forget.
So if you don't put that in now, and I say to the Prime Minister, whoever's listening to government, please ensure that you have mandatory evacuation. That's the only thing to save life. And Dorian, a lot of those fatalities could have been prevented.
Yeah.
To this day, we don't know how much persons died officially. No one, and I've talked to all of them, no one knows the exact amount of persons who died in Hurricane Dorian. And if that don't tell you that you need mandatory work, and then they consider the coroner's court, that's millions of dollars. You had to send teams, different police investigators, you have to send search parties, search and rescue and everything. You have to hire, you have to get all kind of other motions in action for that. When all you have to do is look, get your bag, get a big bus, bring your thing, get your insurance documents, your medical tablet, whatever, medicine or what have you, and let's go. And you put them in a safe location. And then after the storm, now some of you make noise because some people prefer their home. Where you like it, even though that home might be unsafe, where you like it, you tend to feel more comfortable at home. Even if you want to use the bathroom, sometimes you out. You wait until you get home to use the bathroom or have you. But that's just how you are comfortable in your own home. But then that doesn't mean that your home is safer.
Right.
And the people don't have the knowledge of, even with Dorian, they said that the storm will be 21 feet. Most people, that's higher than the roof. The average house. So most people don't realize what they're dealing with until the storm is on top of them. And by then, some people think that
too late.
Think that the water's going to come in slowly and slowly and slowly. But most times it comes in rushing with a force, and you can't fight Mother Nature. If you're going to fight Mother Nature, you're going to lose.
You're going to lose.
Yeah, you have no choice but to lose with Mother Nature. That's human. That's not natural. You're not going to win battle with that. And and I see it with Dorian. And one particular gentleman, him and his wife were about 20 feet from the water. They don't understand the dynamics of a hurricane. They don't understand that 21 feet, they think that, the water's just going to come in slow. But the water came in with gusts 20 feet of water. And with the storm surge, there's a bulging action, or there's a force, there's atmospheric pressure pushing down on the earth. It creates a bulging factor, a bulge in the water. In other words, it forces the water to rise. And that's in the eye wall. So, and that area, that water's going to rise, and that's going to rise with force. And so you, as a person, you can't win that battle. So the best thing to do is get out of the way of that force and just safe location until the storm is over, when the all clear is given.
And the thing is, the things that you're trying to stay home to protect, you could replace them.
You replace those things, yes. You can't replace a human life. And it's best to, and like you said, the police officer said, Mr. Neely, a lot of those persons we saw said, it hurt my heart when I see to say, oh my God, this is the same woman who told me
they were warned, and they even took persons into that community who spoke Creole.
Yeah, they spoke into
pastors who spoke Creole to warn them to please.
We said, we took interpreters, we took police officers,
Yeah,
we took
and they.
government. Yeah.
I actually was told that they mocked the people in their face. Some of them, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then they died.
Yes.
All right. Final thoughts. 1 minute.
Just be ready. I just say it's hurricane season. Be ready. Don't let your guards down. I know we've had a quiet season so far, but it's not. Hurricane season doesn't end until 30th November, 31st November, and so still be prepared. Don't let your guards down because the season's not over. And be prepared. I can't specify more than to be prepared for the hurricane season.
All right, Wayne Neely, thank you so much for
My
joining
pleasure.
us on GPS today. You brought some really good information, and hopefully people are taking heed. Let's continue to pray that we aren't hit with another hurricane. Ask God to grant his mercy upon us. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow, TGIF Open Line Show, where we talk about the week that was. And then there's no show on Monday because it's been declared a national day off, because that is the day that the sovereign, the late Queen Elizabeth II, will be laid to rest. And so they're giving us that day off to observe that. And then we'll be back on air on Tuesday of next week. Until then, I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take
Global 99.